Running ads for your business can be a really good investment. It's going to generate more leads and put your name out there more than ever. However, it is a costly thing, and a lot of times we're just not really clear on what that process is, and it can be kind of risky investing money in it, hoping for a return on investment. Well, today we have a guest, John Horn, who's going to be talking to us about how to use online advertising and paid advertising to your advantage. My name is Craig, and I'm the CEO of Dacey Financial Coaching. Our goal is simple: to help you run a therapy practice that is permanently profitable. If you own a solo or group practice, we're here to help you build a business that creates more time, makes more money, and serves more people. This is the Therapy Business Podcast. All right, John, how are we doing?
Craig, doing fantastic. Great to see you today.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. We are talking all about ads, online advertising, which I'm going to admit has been something that has terrified me as a business owner for a long time. I've been one of those people who's tried to dabble in it, done it a little bit here and there, only for it to feel like a waste of money or for me like I didn't get anything out of it. And it's probably just going to try to do it on my own and bootstrap it. So I'm excited to learn from you. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what's your business, and just a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the CEO of Stub Group, and we're a digital advertising agency. Really what we focus on is paid search, so platforms like Google Ads, as well as paid social, so Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and so forth. And we work with a wide variety of businesses, helping them ultimately find new customers online and connect with those customers and bring in hopefully a lot more money than they're putting out in ad spend. That's the ultimate goal.
Right? Isn't that what it's for? Yes, I completely get it. So with you, when you first see people coming to you, what are some of the, biggest fears or things that people, maybe misconceptions will say about hiring an ad agency to help them run ads?
Yeah. Often they've been burned in the past. Either by the platforms or by agencies or both. Sometimes they've tried DIY, running their own ads, and it hasn't worked well. And they've thrown money down the toilet, so to speak, and nothing's come from it. And so they're skeptical about the platform, even though they recognize that they need to do something to get more business, and that's why they're reaching out to us. And then sometimes they've been burned by agencies where they've worked with teams who just were incompetent or didn't communicate well, or for whatever reason, the relationship just didn't work well. And so, when we're having those conversations, our goal is to make sure that we're a good fit for them to begin with, because we're not the right fit for every single business. Some businesses, how should I put it? Some businesses have unreasonable expectations, and that feeling of being burned by an agency has more to do with the fact that what they want to accomplish isn't going to happen. So we try to be very, realistic and transparent with people to begin with, so we don't get off to a bad start. And then just, understand, okay, what are their pain points? What are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? And then talking about how we can leverage the, various advertising channels to accomplish those goals.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it's so important, and I think everyone in the therapy world probably understands too. It's really important to work with people who are going to be ideal clients. And there's probably a lot of people who come with two probably bad misconceptions. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. There's probably the one side where, like you're saying, it's I have high expectations for this. It's gonna work immediately, and I'm gonna start getting more clients than I can handle. And you probably have the opposite of like, there's no way this is going to work, and it's never worked before. And so almost like this self-fulfilling prophecy, after 2 weeks in, they're like, see, I told you it's terrible. Is that what you see a lot of times? Like this just almost mental barrier of having to overcome before they just finally decide to jump in and work with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are 100% common misconceptions. And it's not uncommon, I'd say too, for businesses to kind of look at advertising as the magic bullet that's going to save their business. So if everything is just not working well, it's like, okay, well, let's just spend some money in advertising, and that's going to fix our problems. And unfortunately, most of the time, there are core things that are causing everything else to not work well, and throwing money into advertising isn't going to fix those things. Now, if it's literally just a situation where you've got a great business, great processes and things in place, and you just need more leads, you need more exposure, advertising's great at doing that. But if it's, hey, your people are calling you and you've got rude people answering the phone, or you're not responding calls, or you just have bad reviews because you're not dealing with your patients well or whatever, advertising is not going to fix that. And so we try to have those conversations up front with clients as much as possible.
Love it. Perfect. Well, and you talked about the different platforms for advertising. So talk to me about, I guess, that approach. I think that's probably incredibly common wondering is, do I do Facebook? Do I do LinkedIn? Do I do Google? What do I do? Where's the best place to go? And I'm sure the answer depends, but tell me really the benefits of each.
Yeah, super common questions, super important questions. So generally the way we'll describe that to people reaching out to us, to our clients, is thinking about it as a funnel. So Google search is kind of the bottom of the funnel, generally speaking. The most likely, if someone is searching for something that's relevant to you, a therapy practice near me, help with mental health, whatever that is, they're literally telling you right now that you are what they need. And so they are the most likely to actually go ahead and take action. And so for most businesses, there's always, like you said, some variation, but for most businesses, we like to start with Google search, specifically ads on Google search, because those are the warmest traffic, the bottom of that funnel. And we want to see, okay, can we convert people who are literally searching for you right now into business, into leads, inquiries, into patients? Then we kind of work our way up from there in the funnel. So if search is at the bottom, on the Google side of things, we'll talk about Meta in a second. On the Google side of things, kind of the next step up would be YouTube/Google Display. And Google Display, for those who don't know, is basically Google's massive network of websites where they serve image ads or sometimes video ads on those websites. So if you go to weather.com or something, you see an ad show up, it's probably coming from Google. And honestly, I would not recommend that campaign type for most therapy practices, just because there's a lot of quality issues with that traffic. There's some fraud, bot clicks, things like that. And I just don't usually see display traffic converting very well, with the exception of what we call remarketing. But in remarketing is if someone's been to your website, then serving ads to them as they go around the rest of the web. But there are a lot of restrictions on remarketing in the therapy and kind of any health related spaces. So sometimes you can remarket, sometimes you can't. YouTube can be very powerful. There's massive amount of people who are using YouTube, and a lot of really great targeting options where you can target based upon the types of content people are watching, channels, even the things they're searching on Google and then spending time on YouTube. So as kind of a higher funnel, much higher than search, but higher funnel, trying to create awareness and get in front of the right people who maybe don't even think to search for you or for your service right now. YouTube can be a good fit. And then on the Meta side of things, Meta, generally speaking, is kind of that mid funnel where, again, it's not search. People aren't typing something into the search engine on Meta, generally speaking, but where you can target people based upon their characteristics or demographics, things like that, with messaging that will hopefully interest them in your offer. So to recap, usually we'll start with Google ads, generally speaking, and then work, I'd say generally go to kind of Meta from there and then to YouTube and kind of that funnel.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. People who are actually searching for a specific thing would be a lot warmer. I know Facebook or Meta does, you get those interests or common interests, but it is kind of just thrown in their face, right? It's just as you're scrolling through your feed, all of a sudden then there's an advertisement for therapy. And it's like, oh, interesting. Very similar. I think of something that relates to it is, I do a lot of YouTube videos, and we'll do the full video and we'll do the short, and the shorts may get a lot of views. They get a lot more thumbs down. And it's just because it's just being thrown at people who probably don't even own a therapy practice. And they're like, what is this doing here? Versus our full videos typically have a lot better feedback response. At first I was like, why does no one like our shorts? And then I learned that's why. It's because I'm just getting thrown in front of somebody that may not even want to see me right now. So I could totally see how the search bar is really important. So when it comes to that, how somebody's identifying that right audience. So how does somebody find that?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally the first thing we want to understand is, what is the therapy practice? What is their target audience? And that's, type of person, what their needs are, obviously geography as well, things like that. So we want to figure out, okay, what's their profile? And sometimes you'll have a practice where you'll say, okay, there's, a wide number of people that we help. And so we want to dive in. Okay, which of your services are most popular right now? Which ones do we really want to promote? Because sometimes we don't want to start too broadly. If you do 5 different things, we don't necessarily want to advertise all 5 things initially, because with whatever we advertise, we want to make sure that we're capturing enough data around that specific service and targeting, that we can actually see what's working, what's not working, and optimize and iterate from there. So we don't want to spread everything out with a shotgun and just, throw a bunch of things at the wall. We want to say, okay, hey, 70% of your business is coming from this particular line, this particular type of patient. Awesome. Let's focus initially our advertising on that, on what's already working well for you, because that's the most likely one that's going to work as we pour fuel on it from an advertising perspective and just get your message in front of more people. So, once we identify what services, what geography we want to target, the type of person we want to target, then we're going to do, keyword research to see, okay, what types of things are these people typing into Google that would tell us that they need our service. And the exact phrases obviously are going to depend upon what type of therapy practice it is and so forth. But we do that keyword research using a variety of tools, Google tools, competitor tools. We'll look and see what are your own competitors in your market currently going after, because if they're going after something, there's a good chance that that's relevant traffic that we should go after as well. And so it's kind of use those different methods to put together a keyword plan. Also, obviously, talking with our client as well, because they are going to know better than we do exactly how people think and what words they use. And so we'll combine all that into kind of a keyword plan, structure plan, map it out, create campaigns, create ad copy that is relevant to what people are searching for, and then start testing and start seeing how many people are searching for these things and how are they interacting with the ads that we're displaying.
Love it. Love it. So yeah, there's a lot of nuances to it. And you mentioned ad copy. And so copy being, for those who don't know, it's just the text you write for sales, trying to get the people to read it and be motivated to buy. How do you navigate that too? So is there a lot of testing of what's working, what's not? Are you throwing out a bunch of different things to see what is your best converter? How do you approach that with a client?
Yeah, lots of testing, absolutely. And the formats that Google has these days are very built around testing. So there's some nuances and exceptions, but as a general rule, kind of the main type of text ad that we run on Google these days is what Google calls responsive search ads, where you generate a number of different kind of headline options and description options and different things, potentially images as well. That you can kind of add to the side of ads. And then you feed those to Google, and then Google mixes and matches to see which combinations of those work best. And there's, some art and science that go into deciding what to feed to begin with. And then sometimes we'll also test, just kind of our manual hypothesis of, okay, we think these exact three descriptions and headlines will beat Google. And then we test and see, does Google figure it out better than us with all its combinations, or does what we think will work actually work best? And so then we'll, test those different things, and over time see, all right, people are engaging with this type of headline or this type of messaging or offer. And then always want to keep testing, iterating, and seeing how can we improve that and ultimately increase the click-through rate, which is just a measure of how many people who see the ad actually click on it, as well as the conversion rate. So once someone clicks on the ad, are they then taking the action on our website that we want them to take? Because ultimately, doesn't matter how good how high your click-through rate is if people are getting to your site and then not doing what you want them to do. So there's all those factors that kind of play in together.
Yeah, and it sounds like that might diagnose some areas, where red flags are coming up, right? If you got a lot of impressions and no one's clicking, then that probably is, okay, we need to change something about the copy over here. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of click-through. The click-through rate's great, but nobody's turning into clients. We're not getting any conversions or calls scheduled or whatever it is, or buy now's pressed. Then maybe there's something on that end. Is that typically the approach? Like, okay, we might need to start tweaking and refining this area. Does it narrow down the focus of here's where the problem is?
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are signals where you never want to say, okay, my goal is X click-through rate, for example, because that's just a vanity metric. Your goal is get as many patients as possible, the right type of patient for the lowest amount of money possible. And then those things are signals. It's like you said, okay, well, if our click-through rate's really low compared to what we'd expect, that means maybe we're going after the wrong keywords, so they're just not relevant, or our ad copy is just not compelling. Or conversely, hey, high click-through rate but low conversion rate. Well, I could get a really high click-through rate by saying, click here for free iPhone, but that's not going to help me at all once people get there. So you got to make sure that the messaging aligns with the experience once they actually get to your website.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to imagine that obviously something as extreme as free iPhone, but if you're If your headline is too extreme, then you're probably gonna have a terrible conversion rate if what you're dealing with is not what you're promising or offering or even capturing their attention. So trying to find that fine line. Do you ever find that you like to use these things as almost gatekeepers to filter in the right types of people? Is that part of the process?
Definitely try to. Sometimes we'll have clients where there's a very specific type of patient they want to work with and others they can't work with. And so sometimes we'll write, I won't call it negative ad copy, but like you said, qualifying ad copy, where we're basically saying, only for this type of person or, not for this type of person. And it helps. But honestly, at the end of the day, many people don't read ads. They just search and then click on what comes up. So there's only so much you can do. So it's also, important, again, what keywords you're targeting. And then it's, to some extent, it's a numbers game. You're never going to have, perfection, but you've got to figure out, can I make it work? Can I make the numbers work? Have a high enough conversion rate that even though not everyone who gets to my website is going to convert, it still works. It's still a profitable cost per lead for me.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that too can sometimes even be on the, if people are driving, they're people to book a consultation, for example, we have questions before somebody can actually schedule on our calendar to play that gatekeeper. So it's almost like that third line of defense, I guess, of, so a therapist, maybe they don't accept insurance, and it's like, check this box if you understand we don't accept insurance. And that may cause somebody to click the red X, because they're like, oh, I need somebody with insurance. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. So as far as money goes, I know, let me preface with, I know you can't be like, well, it's going to cost this much you need to be investing this much in ads. I know it can really depend.
Right.
But what is I've heard that if you're going to do it, you can't just go in and be like, well, I'm going to spend, $50 on ads and hope for the best. I've heard a lot of people say you need at least some kind of investment in order to really see if it actually works. Is that true?
It is true. Yeah. If you're just going, like you said, just for a few dollars here and there, it really tells you nothing. If you happen to get something good out of it, awesome, but you don't know how to replicate that. And if nothing good comes from it, well, it doesn't mean that the channel was not good and that you might not get something good from it. You just didn't get to the right place. So like you said, a lot of variation, depends on many factors, but as just a very kind of broad rule of thumb, for most businesses, I'll say you should plan to spend at least $2,000 a month on ad spend starting out. Let's say Google specifically, we're starting with Google search campaigns. Usually I'd say at least $2,000 because in most cases that will give us the ability to collect enough data to be able to see, is this working? Is this not working? And start to make some optimizations over time to improve things. Now, again, there's caveats to that. Sometimes you can get away with less if it's, maybe a very tiny, very, very geographically small area you're going after, or something that's a very low competition, vertical that you're in. And then, of course, if you're like, hey, I'm going nationwide, well, you probably aren't going to spend $2,000 a month nationwide. You're probably going to need to spend more money than that. So, all those types of factors obviously play into things.
Yeah. And with therapists, a lot of them certifications are state specific. And so they might have a smaller target area. But, I typically think of it this way. In the past, when I've hired people to help us with advertising, it's, I'm going, okay, and maybe you have a timeline that you recommend, but in my brain, I'm like, okay, 90 days, if it's 2,000 a month, I'm going to invest $6,000 just to see, is this going to work? And worst case scenario is I lose $6,000 and decide it didn't work, or best case scenario, we start seeing some traction and results. And then moving forward, we're getting some ROI for that. Like you said, you're making more back than what you're investing. What kind of timeline would you recommend if somebody's going to even dabble in ads, whether they're working with an agency or on their own? How much time do you recommend giving it to really kind of know if it's working?
You hit the nail on the head, actually. Yeah. 3 months is okay. Right. Basically exactly what we recommend to clients to project initially. And when we say 3 months, that doesn't mean we're going to set everything up day one and then let it just run for 3 months and do nothing and see what happens. There's a lot of work and stuff that goes in during those 3 months and testing and optimizing and whatnot. But yeah, usually we say, at least 3 months, we should either be hitting your goals or have a really positive trajectory and path to hitting your goals by the end of 3 months. And if not, then, it may not be the right fit.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, as to your credit, what you were talking about earlier, myself included, I've been down this road before too, where you boost a Instagram post for $100 and either you're like, oh, that didn't work. What a waste of money. What a waste of time. Or, I had a time where I was boosting a YouTube video a while back. And, the first time I did, I think I spent $100 and I got a client out of it. And I was like, oh, awesome. And then I turned around and spent hundreds more and never got another lead. So it's just, that whole law of averages, just because in my brain, I was like $100 and I just closed, a client that was worth way more than that. It's to your credit and to what you're talking about. It can be deceiving when you're just kind of throwing little things out there and you are blindly just trying to run ads. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be dangerous and can be a huge time and money suck, is what my experience has been.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
Okay, great. So, man, this has been just a wealth of knowledge here. And so you're with Google Ads, that's pretty much the place you say for most people to start. If somebody's looking at social media, what's the differences in how you typically would approach Google audiences versus social media audiences?
Absolutely. So, the upside to Google, the nice thing about Google is, like we talked about, people are searching, and you're showing ads to people who are searching for something, and you know what they're searching for. The downside is it's usually very competitive. So everybody's there because it is the bottom of the funnel. And so a click on your ad can be very expensive. And for those who don't know kind of how the bidding and payment works with Google, you pay per click. So when someone clicks on your ad, that's when you fork over money to Google. And so clicks can become quite expensive just because there's a lot of competition. So on the social side of things, let's say Facebook, Instagram, often you could see much lower cost per clicks and reach a lot more people with your ads for less money than on Google, which is the upside. The downside, again, is that those people are probably less ready to convert because they're not searching right now. They're checking up on how their aunt's doing, what she posted on Facebook, or the funny cat video that popped up or whatever, and then you're interrupting them. And so there's a trade-off between how much you're spending per person to see your ad, but then also how likely is that person to then end up converting for your offer. So often, if things are just so crazy expensive on the Google side of things, just too competitive and you really can't compete, then social can be a good place to explore and say, well, hey, maybe we can make it work over here. Again, it's a numbers game, but if you can find enough of the right people, have the right targeting and the right creative, it can work. And so that's one reason why people might do Meta over Google, for example. And then sometimes too, if you have a very specific service, let's say, that you are providing, there might not be that many people who are searching for it on Google. This is especially true if it's something that people don't even know that they need yet, or that many people don't know they need yet. And so with Google, if they're not searching for it, your ad's not showing up. And so you need something like social or YouTube, where you are instead identifying the type of person that you think is most likely to be relevant to your offer, and then saying, hey, you have this problem, here's the solution. And then getting in front of more people and creating awareness through that. Okay.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. If you're a therapist for house cats who have sleep insomnia, most people may not know you exist. And so, yeah, it's like no one's searching for that.
Exactly.
So completely get that. That makes a lot of sense. When somebody's doing ads, whether it's Google or Facebook, let's say you get past that 90-day period or however long, and you're like, man, this is... we are at a primo cost per click. Everything is moving. Conversion rate's really good. Is it set it and forget it? Or you're like, all right, we're good. Just let's push the autopilot button and move on. Or is it something that can ebb and flow or change? Are you still looking at those things months down the road? What does that look like?
I wish it were set it and forget it. That would save us a whole lot of time and work. But no, there's a lot that still goes into it. Even if you've got a campaign that's running, firing on all cylinders, doing really well, there are constantly variables that can impact things. So variables include, what's your competition doing? If somebody gets really aggressive and starts just bidding a lot more than you, or a new shop opens up in town and they join, things like that can massively impact your campaigns. Now you've got to adjust. You've got things like Google is constantly changing their algorithms, their approaches, their ad formats, campaign strategies, you name it, they're constantly changing. So you've got to be on top of that and making sure that you're, reacting to those things and trying to stay at the cutting edge, as opposed to, you leave things alone for too long and you wake up and realize, oh, I missed the last couple updates and my ads are not working well at all. So you've got things like that. And then there's always ways to improve. There's always, waste that you can cut by looking at, okay, well, maybe these search terms, maybe they're kind of relevant to us, but as I track it over time, they're not turning into good leads or good patients. So let's cut these. Let's stop spending money on that. You've always got, what if we test a different approach on our landing page that could increase our conversion rate by 10%, by 20%? Well, that automatically makes your campaigns more effective, decreases your cost per lead. So there's always negative things you got to be fighting against, and then positive things you can be looking for to keep improving the success of your campaigns.
Man, it sounds like curiosity. Like all I can think about is what you're talking about. It's just being curious of constantly curious about what's working, what's not, why is it not working? What if we tried this? What if we tested this? Is that kind of boil it down to what it is? It's just like, for those who are maybe stressed about it or have high expectations, like just approach it with curiosity, be open-minded and curious as we approach this. Does that sound like a good mentality?
That's a fantastic mentality. Yes. Asking the what if we do this? What if we do that? And then having structure in place to identify what happens when you do the what if. So not just, well, what if we run this type of campaign, but all right, what do we expect? How are we measuring success? Are we looking at the number of leads? How are we tracking that back? So that if we then do that test and say, hey, we want to offer a free consultation. Great. Well, let's offer that for a month. And then let's see, how did that month do compared to the previous month when we weren't offering that as a consultation? What's our conversion rate? What's our cost per lead, et cetera? And then taking that and saying, okay, well, hey, free consultation 1, cool. Let's keep doing that. And let's test this other approach. Or you know what? Free consultation, it's not working. It's not worth it. Let's keep doing what we were doing previously. And then, continuing to build on that over time.
Man, that's great. That's really great. Yeah. Just, constantly changing how you're viewing it and approaching it. And I think, like you said, it would be nice to set it and forget. I think about how you made a great point about how Meta and Google are constantly changing how they are operating behind the scenes. And I think back, so I'm in a 90s cover band and we run ads whenever we're playing local shows on Meta. Pre-COVID, man, our ad spend would go so far. We would be getting so many ad responses. And I say pre and post COVID just simply because there was a lapse of about a year where we weren't running ads. And then we came back and I just kind of hit the same buttons that we ran before. And I think our results were like cut in half. Now there's probably a million reasons, but I also know that Meta had changed some things on their end as well about how ads were delivered. And I was trying to set it and forget it, and it didn't work. And I had to try and relearn and increase spend and try different things all over again. But I was trying different graphics, different copy, until you find kind of that secret sauce. But I guess that's the key. I thought I could set. I was like, man, we have unlocked the secret to Meta ads, and I don't have to do anything ever again. And couldn't be more wrong.
They love changing things over there. I tell you, every day. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't work anymore. Cool. Let's figure out the new thing.
Which is where somebody like you is incredibly valuable, because as business owners, therapy practice owners, plates are full, and I think that's the value of having experts in different areas. You have a lot to do, and to have to sit there and try and decode Meta and decode Google and what all they're doing, trying to add that to your plate when it's probably more there. To me, it seems like you need a degree in it, but you guys that's your world. That's your bread and butter. Your job is really to keep a pulse on it and to know what's happening. So to that point, and listeners who are hearing this and going, I want to get into paid ads, or I've tried it, it hasn't worked. I need some help. How can they get in touch with you? What do you recommend they do?
Yeah, best place would be through our website, stubgroup.com. And you just give us a call or fill out a form on there to schedule a free consultation. And ultimately, we'll just have a conversation with you like we talked about earlier and just say, okay, what's going on? What are your goals? Where are you at? What are your services, et cetera? And see if we think we're a good fit to be able to help you. If we're not, we'll try to give you some helpful info and send you on your way. If we are, awesome. Hopefully we get to work together and drive some results. So that's a great place. And I would say too, if you just want some free information, go to stubgroup.com/free. We've got some different guides and resources on there you can download to just give you some more ideas about the advertising side of things and start your journey there.
Man, that's great. I will link all those in the show notes below. I have learned a lot. I was taking notes as you were talking as well about just things I need to keep a pulse on. So thank you for sharing your time and your knowledge. And it has been a lot of fun talking to you. Thanks for joining us on the Therapy Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a practice owner that you may know. If your practice needs help getting organized with its finances or just growing your practice, head to therapybusinesspod.com to learn how we can help.